Namaskar. Okay, this is another video. Well, I'll do straight after that last one on water. It's a very short one, and this one is in response to flat earthers who claim that the sun goes around a flat disk, if you like, and that shines pretty much the way that we see the sun in our daily experience. So there's just a couple of points I want to make about that. First of all, the sun shines on exactly half the Earth at a time. So I'm at a loss to understand how a flat earther with any modicum of intelligence would be able to work out how the sun as either as a disk or whatever object they seem to think it is. It's circular. Can produce a light beam that covers exactly half of the Earth at once. I'm not sure how on earth they'd expect that to happen. And what kind of lampshade this sun would have to have in order to produce light that would only shine on half of the Earth at once. So already, how they even go beyond that is very, very strange. Okay, so let's look at something else. Let's look at flat earthers who take the sun as being local. Okay, well, we actually have instruments that measure electromagnetic radiation from the sun. And this electromagnetic radiation outside of Earth's magnetic field is considerable. Now, this electromagnetic radiation is measurable, as I said. So we know what it is, we know where it comes from, we know its intensity, we know its speed, we know its frequency, and we know its distance from all of those factors. We have instruments that actually do that. How do we know these instruments work? Well, because we use them here, and they make extraordinary precise predictions. Just about any analytical method that uses spectroscopy uses that sort of technology. So we understand the electromagnetic spectrum extremely well, and we understand what it is when it comes from the sun. Okay. The issue is, it could not be a local sun and then we survive it. We could not possibly survive the electromagnetic radiation that comes from the sun if it was only 3,000 miles away. That's just patently ridiculous. And then, some flat earthers who claim that the Earth is surrounded by a dome, and then the sun is actually enclosed in that dome, that's even more ridiculous. Isn't the sun going to heat up the contents of that dome? And when does it get a chance to cool down? I mean, the sun's always in the dome, isn't it? Come on. What kind of ridiculous thing is that you could possibly believe in it? Fairies are actually more likely. Okay, I digress. Now, the other thing I want you to consider is this sun that's going around a flat disk. And I know some flat earthers, like that guy in the shed, says, well, I'm not saying it's any model, but I am saying that it is a plane. Well, unless you're thinking about a square plane, a diamond-shaped plane, and you're talking about lands beyond, what, all around, so you are pretty much talking about a plate-shaped Earth, aren't you? No matter how you try to disguise that by saying, I don't have a model, just be honest with yourself. Okay, now that we've established that, let's have a look at this reality. The reality is that it's about 9,000 miles from the North Pole to, let's say, a well-known Australian city like Hobart. It's in fact about 9,300 miles. Okay, so if that's the case, then I guess even flat earthers know a little bit about geometry. So you'll know that the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, or pi times the diameter. So if the distance across from the North Pole, which is, let's take that as being now the radius, is say 9,300 kilometers, well, you multiply that by 2 and then by pi, and you'll get the circumference. Now, just roughly, that will be really about 60,000 miles, give or take. Well, if it was 60,000 miles, give or take, and you divided that by 24, so you're looking at around about 2,500 miles, if you like, per hour. So the sun has to travel 2,500 miles per hour to get around your flat disk at the latitude of, say, Hobart. Now, the people in Hobart, and I've been there many, many times, in fact stayed there, I've done a lot of work in Hobart, you know, I live in Melbourne, and in Hobart, the sun doesn't go twice as fast or 2.5 times as fast as it does for everybody else, And in fact, at the same time that the sun is going 2,500 miles per hour, supposedly in Hobart, it's the same sun that's going around in Russia. So the Russians aren't suddenly experiencing the sun going 2,500 times faster than they usually do, just because the people in Hobart happen to be experiencing it. How ridiculous is that? How can the same sun be travelling at 2 different speeds? Because in Russia, it certainly would be travelling a hell of a lot slower, wouldn't it? I mean, it's got a lot less circumference to get around in Russia. Russia's pretty close to the North Pole, so northern Russia. And the Russians and the Tasmanians would be experiencing the sun at the same time. I mean, that's just a fact. So, it should be pretty clear to you that this flat earth stuff is nonsense just from that alone. Or at least, the sun is not a local sun. And this idea of a flat plane where the sun's got to travel 2,500 miles faster than it does for Americans, well, that's just patently ridiculous. So here we go. Drop that nonsense of a local sun from your flat earth lexicon, because it clearly doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, that's about enough. Cheers.